Michael, what a spectacular example of a Gilded Age home. It's right here in DeLand, Florida, open to the public. People can tour any time of year, but it's also actually your home. You and your partner JT are the ones who were responsible for bringing this back from really the brink of disaster.
Well, you know, Chip, this is actually the only Gilded Age mansion in Florida. So this being in 1886 is the first and only Gilded Age mansion ever built in Florida.
The whole point of Gilded Age architecture was to kind of go over the top, to show that you were aware of other cultures of the world and that you could afford to replicate those cultures. And a lot of times they did it all in one place.
Gilded Age implies luxury.
Sure.
There are other mansions built in that time period, but they didn't have the floors, the windows, and all the extra bells and whistles this house had.
What was it like when you found it?
When we found it was pretty rough. There wasn't even a driveway. It was in nice condition, but it hadn't been touched or altered or improved in 100 years.
It's a lot of house to maintain.
This is the more traditional Victorian side of the house.
Wow.
But you can really see the Moorish influence with the three arches.
Oh,
and
sure.
if you look at all the windows, they had the keyhole design. It's supposed to be. Right after they built the house, they realized that room was too small, and this was an outdoor porch. They closed in the porch and closed in the arches. Normally these arches would be open. They did that, and they extended the dining room because at the time there's a competition with the DeBarrys to have the biggest dining room. So DeBarry did his, so Stetson had to do his.
A lot of that is always driven by keeping up with the Joneses. It's just extraordinary to me to look at all of these different styles in one house, and somehow it works, and it's just phenomenal.
Beyond the pool on the other side of the street, he had a full gator pit. He'd invite his friends to come see his alligators, Ponce and DeLand, and he'd bring them over there, and that was part of the entertainment. He had monkeys on the property. He had peacocks on the property. You know, people had never been to Florida before, so he had to show them all this stuff, give them reasons to come, see the wildlife, enjoy the warm weather, eat some oranges. He jump-started tourism in this part of Florida.
Is that right? So, I mean, we think about that. Before he came here, really, this was just swampland, and you would think maybe some sharp-talking cracker sold it to him, and he came and tried to build on a swamp, but actually he had vision, and he saw what this could become.
He had a friend that was selling orange groves, and so his friend Henry DeLand sold him 300 acres, and that's what brought him here. Plus, he had tuberculosis, and he needed to get into a warm climate, you know, for his own health.
And that's something he had battled his whole life. That's what sent him out west in the first place.
Right.
And that's where he saw
dry climate.
He saw the Cowboys then in all kind of headgear. It might be a bandana, it might be a fedora, it might be whatever they picked up off the ground. It wasn't a baseball cap, we know that. But he looked around and said, these folks need a hat made just for them. And that's where he first came up with the concept for the Stetson hat.
I think he made one for himself, you know, and since he was a hatter trained, he made a good quality one, and someone came along and bought it off his head and gave him $5 and said, I want it. And it's like, wow, I might be able to make some money at this. And that's when he went back east and opened up his own shop.
Since then, they've sold a few Stetson hats.
They have.
So this was built as a winter home, but Stetson himself spent a lot of time here.
Stetson spent 6 months a year here, starting in 1886, till he died in the house in 1906.
In the home.
He's Florida's first snowbird.